At Buckingham Palace in London, the place was bustling with tourists under the bright midday sun. The air was filled with the laughter of children, the sound of cameras snapping, and stories about the royal family being shared by tour guides. But while everything seemed normal, something notable was happening. Jake Johnson, a 35-year-old man from New York, appeared in the crowd. With his muscular build and overconfident demeanor, he quickly attracted attention. Jake was not an ordinary tourist. He was a former karate champion, and to him, everything around him was a challenge. With his sharp gaze and excessive self-assurance, Jake began mocking the royal guard standing motionless. "Look at these guys, they're like statues," he said loudly, causing some people nearby to turn and look. Jake's provocation only made the atmosphere more tense. Not only did he speak out, but he continued with insults, dismissing the guards as people with no real strength, mere decorative scenery. Although the crowd began to give him disapproving looks, Jake did not back down. Instead, he became more animated, seemingly enjoying the attention he was receiving. But at that moment, no one knew that a challenge was about to take place, and it would not unfold as Jake had imagined. As Jake continued mocking the guards, he felt more and more dominant. With each jab, his gaze grew sharper, like a challenger seeking a confrontation. People around him started paying more attention, and while some looked displeased with Jake's actions, the majority watched him with curiosity. Some even started recording, as if they were witnessing an unprecedented scene. Jake had no idea that his provocation was starting to cross a line. "It feels like these guys are just part of the scenery," Jake continued, not bothering to acknowledge those who were trying to remind him. "They can't do anything except stand still. I could easily take all of them down with one punch." His words unsettled some people around him. A middle-aged man in a suit looked at Jake and quietly said, "You can't talk like that, they're military personnel." However, Jake just smiled dismissively and continued to focus on one particular guard, Ryan Foster, who he had singled out as his target. With a serious expression, Ryan did not react. It seemed he didn't feel threatened at all. In fact, Ryan's silence only fueled Jake's arrogance, making him believe he could easily overpower the soldier if he wanted to. One of Jake's friends started to worry and quietly tried to intervene, saying, "Jake, stop, you're going too far." But Jake didn't listen. He moved even closer, crossing the line and starting to directly mock Ryan. "Hey, royal soldier, are you a statue, or do you have any emotions?" The tension in the air continued to rise, with the crowd seemingly splitting into two factions, one group concerned for Jake's safety, and the other seeing him as going too far. Some started to whisper among themselves, "This can't go on. This is too much." Ignoring the tension around him, Jake continued to move closer to guard Ryan, as if seeking recognition from the crowd. Each step Jake took seemed to intensify the growing unease in the air. Although some people started to worry about him, Jake was completely unaware of the severity of the situation. His words, "I could definitely take all of them down with just one punch," were not only a provocation but also a display of contempt for what he found humorous. He smirked, stepped over the white line, and got even closer to Ryan, feeling like he was leading his own show. "Do something, or are you waiting for orders? Aren't you scared at all?" Jake said with a mocking tone, as though he were facing a statue that couldn't react. Jake's taunts caused the crowd to become increasingly divided. A few people began to show signs of discomfort and worry about what might happen next, while others simply stood by, their eyes fixed on Jake's performance. Some even pulled out their phones to record, while others whispered, "It looks like he's going too far." At that point, one of Jake's friends, unable to stay silent, spoke up, urging him, "Jake, you should stop. It's not always a joke." But Jake ignored him and laughed loudly, "Don't worry, they're just soldiers." The atmosphere around them grew suffocating and heavy. All eyes were on the two of them, and an eerie silence took over the area in front of Buckingham Palace. Jake, confident like a warrior, began performing martial arts moves as if preparing for a real fight. He threw a few punches into the air, then turned back to the crowd, saying, "Let me show you what real defense looks like." People sensed something was about to happen, something unpredictable. While Jake continued his display, Ryan stood there, unmoving, maintaining his position, his sharp eyes showing no response to any of the provocations. Yet, in the silence, a rising tension filled the air, like a fuse waiting to ignite. This passage heightens the drama of the story, emphasizing Jake's arrogance as he continues to provoke guard Ryan, while also drawing attention to the escalating tension between the two and the heavy atmosphere surrounding them. As Jake continued with his punches in the air and provocations, the atmosphere around him became more tense than ever. The crowd had almost split into two groups, one side worried for Jake's safety, while the other stood watching, shaking their heads, realizing that his actions had gone too far. Whispers filled the air. "This isn't good. What's he going to do next?" Despite this, Jake remained oblivious. He was completely immersed in his own world, feeling like the star of an attention-grabbing performance. The closer he got to Ryan, the more smug he became, a smirk never leaving his face. "All right, if you won't react, I'll show you what a real attack looks like," Jake declared, his voice full of challenge, as he moved closer, causing everyone to hold their breath in anticipation. But what Jake didn't expect was that Ryan was not afraid. As Jake continued to move closer, preparing to land a powerful kick on the guard, Ryan remained still, completely silent. A slight movement from Ryan was all the crowd saw, and in an unbelievable moment, Jake's kick was effortlessly blocked. Ryan swiftly moved, catching Jake's leg in midair, a lightning-fast reaction no one could have predicted. Before Jake could process what had happened, he was thrown to the ground. The impact left him dazed, his hand instinctively reaching out to break his fall. Everything around him seemed to go silent for a brief moment. The crowd stood stunned, unable to believe their eyes as they witnessed the royal guard, whom Jake had treated as a joke, handle him with absolute precision. Jake lay on the ground, disoriented and ashamed. The arrogant smile he had worn earlier was gone, replaced by confusion and fear. Ryan, his expression unchanged, quickly returned to his original position, eyes still fixed ahead as if nothing had happened. The entire crowd erupted into applause, cheering Ryan's calmness. Compliments rang out from every direction. "That was amazing, no hesitation. Now that's patience and discipline." Jake stood up, eyes shut tight, his face flushed with embarrassment, unable to face the crowd's gaze. He took a step back, trying to regain the confidence that had vanished. As Jake slowly got to his feet, his face flushed with embarrassment, he realized he had been defeated quickly and effortlessly, something he had never imagined before. His ego was severely bruised as he looked at the crowd, the same people who had once seen him as the center of attention, now looking at Ryan with eyes full of respect. The applause never stopped, and compliments filled the air. "He's amazing. Unbelievable, just one move and he took down a guy so full of himself." While Jake, with a bewildered and confused look, tried to muster the remaining bits of his confidence, he couldn't help but feel publicly humiliated in front of so many people. Jake's friends, standing nearby, looked at him with concern and quietly withdrew from the crowd, unwilling to stay by his side in that moment. Though Jake tried to salvage his pride, deep down, he knew his image had been shattered. He blinked, unable to comprehend how he had been so easily defeated. The pain in his chest wasn't just from physical failure, but from the collapse of the pride that had made him believe he was invincible. While Jake wrestled with his emotions, Ryan, with a completely calm expression, returned to his original position without any change. He stood there, firm and unwavering, like a symbol of discipline and tradition, showing no sign of regret or unnecessary emotion. Ryan's actions had made the crowd, who had been observing from the beginning, feel a deep sense of admiration. They didn't just applaud Ryan for his fighting ability, but for his patience and absolute calm in every situation. Jake remained standing there, his face twisted in embarrassment, while the praise for Ryan grew louder. "Now that's professionalism," one man in the crowd said, and others nodded in agreement. The story of Jake quickly spread across social media, and instead of being remembered as a former karate champion, his name became a lesson in the cost of arrogance. As Jake realized he had been publicly humiliated in front of the crowd, everything began to change. Though still hesitant and unable to face the truth of his failure, he could not deny that he had been wrong. Jake's sense of pride had been deeply wounded, and as he looked at the crowd, still cheering for Ryan, he felt smaller than ever. The compliments for Ryan kept pouring in, highlighting his patience and absolute calmness. Jake, meanwhile, stood there with a flushed face, struggling to hide his embarrassment, but he couldn't deny that everything he had done had only made him the butt of the joke. The story quickly spread, and the video of Jake being taken down by the royal guard became a hot topic on social media. Comments from netizens and news articles criticized Jake's actions, while praising Ryan for his composure and discipline. "This is a lesson for the arrogant," one comment read. "No one can disrespect the tradition and discipline of the Royal Guard without facing the consequences." Jake, now fully aware that he had not only tarnished his personal honor but also a part of a culture he had never truly understood, had to face harsh public criticism. And while he had lost what little pride remained, he also learned a valuable lesson in respect and patience. Ryan, on the other hand, remained motionless, completely unaffected, standing as an unshakable symbol of tradition and discipline.